Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 55 of Nostalgia Talk. Yeah, the double five, 55. That number still reminds me of when I was in college, which honestly isn't that much of a good thing. But anyway, so I'm James. Welcome to the 55th Nostalgia Talk. Joining me this time around is Senta Moses.
Hello, James. Lucky 55. I'll take it.
I'll I'll assume that's a good thing. Just saying, I have memories of that number that are really interesting. But anyway, so for anyone who doesn't know, Centa is an actress in film and TV. You might know her best as Tracy McAllister in Home Alone. It's funny. I told a lot of my friends I'm interviewing one of the kids from Home Alone. They didn't really remember the names, so I explained who Tracy was. I was like, big curly early '90s puffed up hair. That
Right.
helped a
Uncle
little bit.
Frank's
Yeah.
daughter. Uncle Frank's
Yeah.
daughter. That's usually the way that I tell people who I am to the flow chart of the McAllister family. Yeah.
It was so much like Full House though, because you couldn't tell which one was
Oh,
which one. Yeah.
no, I know we were just like a gaggle of children.
Even bigger than just being in Full House. And in addition to Home Alone, was also Phoebe, the lab assistant in Beekman's World, was in the show Fakin' It, which I've never seen, as Principal Penelope. What else? The show that actually was the big one for me, Bella and the Bulldogs, which I will get to eventually. Big surprise, right? And was also in General Hospital. And so that's another very iconic show. So yeah, she's been in a lot of iconic productions, some which were, of course, iconic to me.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. So it's great to have you here. I'm really glad that our mutual friend Katie Von Till put us in touch.
Well, thank you for having me, James. This is fun.
And Katie, if you are listening, thank you for putting us in touch. I really do appreciate it. She mentioned you guys were friends, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I had been interested in trying to get in touch with you, but had no way to. And then when Katie mentioned it, I was like, okay, this is gonna work. That happens a lot with this podcast. Like I interviewed a guy whose name is Norman Stiles, who was head writer for Sesame Street, and he got me in touch with the man who took over from him, and
Mm.
his name is Lou
Yeah,
Berger.
it's a very small business, and
It
everybody
really
tends to know each other, or like at least have passing knowledge of each other. So yeah.
Exactly. So let's begin by going back a few ways. What got you interested in acting?
Well, I actually started acting when I was 6 months old. My mother put me in a diaper commercial while I was living. The diaper commercial showcased my naked bottom. Um, but that was the start of my career. So I grew up in front of the camera, and I got my SAG card in 1978 on a movie called The Blues Brothers. And
The
I've
Blues
been,
Brothers with John Belushi and Dan
yeah,
Aykroyd?
Dan Aykroyd.
Wow.
My first film, and that was how I got my SAG card. I was one of the dancers in the scene where Ray Charles is playing the piano to Shake a Tail Feather.
Oh,
And I
nice. My
little girl.
dad used to play that song when we were kids all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that was my first foray into film. And before that, it was mostly stage and television. And then I just kept at it. And throughout my childhood, my parents always said, is this something you want to do? Or do you want to, I don't know, go to prom, or, be a cheerleader? Like, what do you want to do? And I always just wanted to act. It was the only thing I was ever interested in, my first love. So I've been doing it a very long time, James.
Wow. Yeah, I can tell, like, starting right from 6 months old. Like the last person I had on this show actually started at like in single digits as well.
Well, I'm
Believe it
not
or
qualified to do anything else, so full
not.
disclosure on
Yeah,
that.
fair enough. I mean, the last person I had on the show, Serena Berman, who was in some of the Peanuts specials, doing Lucy. She was on America's Most Wanted when she was 4, and
Oh, gee,
she was
like a
saying to me
reenactment?
she was doing a reenactment where she
Yeah,
was a murdered child.
that's amazing.
Not for her. Sorry, Serena.
Oh, but like, what a debut! I played a murdered child. That's incredible. Yeah.
Exactly. So the Blues Brothers was the first time that you made an appearance on screen. Did you do stage shows as well?
I did. My first stage show was Nefertiti in Chicago. And then after that, I did The Sound of Music, where I played Gretel at the Marriott Lincolnshire Theater. And then when I was 7, I was cast in Annie, and we toured the nation. I played the role of Molly. So
Uh,
that was a large chunk. I was on tour for 13 months playing
mhm.
Molly. was a large chunk of my childhood. And then, yeah, just kept doing film and TV in between everything else in school and just kept doing it.
Now, Annie's where you met Katie, right?
Oh, no, 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 no. I
Okay.
didn't
Because
Katie
because
until, yeah, Katie and I met. hmm,
okay, yeah.
I can't even remember.
Because I remember she was saying that she did Annie once as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah. No, I don't know when she did Annie, but
okay.
Katie and I didn't meet until I was living out here through a mutual friend from high school.
Okay.
So, yeah, she's a recent friend.
Okay. Yeah. And a really, really warm person, I gotta
Oh,
say.
very, very, yes.
Hmm.
She's very warm.
So, how did you get involved in the Home Alone movies?
So when I auditioned for the first movie, I was 16. I was living in Chicago. It was my senior year of high school, and I just auditioned. I had an agent and a manager at the time, and they submitted me, and I went and auditioned. And then after reading for the casting directors, Jane and Janet Hershenson, and then, or Jane Jenkins and Janet Hershenson. Then I went back for a callback and met with Chris Columbus, the director, and John Hughes, who wrote it. And then they started matching the families. Just to sort of see how we all look together. So that was part of the process too. So it was a straight audition. It wasn't an offer or anything unusual. It was just I auditioned for it and I ended up getting it. And then when they made the second one, Home Alone 2, they brought the original family back. So I did that one as well. And that one actually shot in New York, which was super fun.
Hmm.
Um, and that was a different experience because the first one was such a success. So the second one naturally was just a much bigger ordeal. The first one was a bit of like a low budget film. The second one, not so much.
Yeah, because now people know a lot of you guys and would recognize you, like when you go through the airports for those scenes where they're kind of
Yeah.
racing to chase the planes.
Those scenes took so long to shoot. I think we were at O'Hare Airport like 2 weeks, and there was so much running, and there was so much choreography because all of the atmosphere, the people around us, were choreographed to be sure that nobody ran into us, to be sure that we could run without getting trampled or trip or anything. Although I know that one actress did fall and hurt her knee, but
Oh,
it
geez.
was fully orchestrated. Like it was like a well choreographed dance routine to get us through those terminals, and it was a very long process. Yeah.
Wow. So for the main plot of Home Alone 1 is that they how they ended up getting separated was for in both cases vacations that Kevin just kind of either they miscounted or he misread the situation. And so for the first one it was a trip to Paris. For the second one it was a trip to Miami. You didn't actually go there for that?
We didn't go to Miami. We didn't go to Paris either. So the first one was shot at a soundstage in Winnetka, the New Trier High School as well. They created a soundstage for us. And the second one we shot in New York at the Plaza Hotel, but we didn't go to Florida. That was on the stage as well. So it was a little bit of travel, but not quite as much.
Okay.
Yeah.
But New York, that's a really, really cool place to go. Like, did you actually film it like around the holidays?
Um, oh geez. I think it was right after the holidays.
Okay, because I always believed that New York looked. I've never been to New York at Christmas time. I've been to New York, but
Yeah.
but it was in the summer. Yeah, but at Christmas time, I feel like it would just look so nice because of the
Oh, it's
lights
a gorgeous
everywhere.
city. I mean, there's so much holiday spirit and the big Christmas tree. It's beautiful. New York is a great place to be in the
Mhm.
winter during the holidays for
Yeah.
sure.
So were you asked back for the third Home Alone?
No, it was just a completely different cast. So the
Okay.
original cast was there for the first one and the second one.
Okay. So there was no plans to like bring like they were just starting like a new story then.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about starting up a new story, you said that you met John Hughes when you were auditioning. And for anyone who doesn't know, John Hughes is one of the best filmmakers of all time. Like some of the most iconic movies of the 1980s, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, you know,
Teen
ch-
Candles.
yeah, chances are if it's a teen movie in the 1980s, it's a John Hughes film. What was he like?
He was very quiet and pensive, but so sweet, so sweet. I wish that I was very starstruck when I met him because
I would be too.
I grew up on 16 Candles and Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and Some Kind of Wonderful. Like those movies changed me. So meeting him in person, I wish that I would have met him at my age, because maybe I would have been a little bit more eloquent or apt to have a conversation with him. But I was just so overwhelmed. But he couldn't have been nicer and more supportive and just kind to us kids, because there was a lot of kids on the set of Home Alone, and it was crazy. So he was so patient and kind and so funny, and just the way that he writes characters, that he wrote characters that were just so well defined, and you can immediately, when you're watching his movies, those people. Like every single character in his film, you've met someone like that, which is why you immediately get endeared to the characters and you start rooting for them, because you feel like you know them. And he's just, and I'm sad that he's no longer with us, because he was quite a treasure.
Speaking of a couple of years ago, we lost John Hurd, who of course was, for anyone who doesn't know, unless you saw that little clip at the beginning of the video that says dedicated to John Hurd. If you don't know who that is, John Hurd was the dad in the first two Home Alones. I remember the day that he passed too, because it was in the summer and the networks were having Home Alone marathons. I thought, I understand why, but this doesn't seem like a good time for that, because it's freaking hot out. What was John Hurd like?
Oh, he was very sweet. I actually ran into him, God, it must have been a couple years before he passed away. And, I look a little different now than I did when I was 16. And he was at this coffee shop in Studio City called Pete's Coffee on Ventura. And I walked up to him and I said, "You probably don't remember me, but I played your niece in Home Alone." And he looked at me for a second and he went, "Your name is Centa." And I said, "Yes," which was so cool. He's a good man. He's a good man.
Yeah. That's what I heard. I know somebody who worked with him once.
Talented actor, so freaking talented. Oh my God. He was in Big with Tom Hanks. He played smarmy, scummy, toy executive. He's so talented. He was so talented.
Yeah, that is probably, as much as Home Alone is a great movie. I recently rewatched Big for the first time in a while. I think that's probably John Hurd's best performance, because that is
so many. Oh God, he's got so many good performances. Yeah, okay. And Big was directed by Penny Marshall, who I love. I mean, it's just it's an incredible film.
Absolutely. You were in that opening scene in Home Alone where Joe Pesci's character is pretending that he's a cop when actually he's trying to make sure that they're leaving so that he can rob the house.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't even recognize the first time I ever watched Home Alone. I was 13 and it was close to the last day of school before Christmas. My English teacher said, last day of school, we'll watch Home Alone. And that's what we did. So, which I had never seen. Well, the first one I had never seen at the time. When I was 11, though, I went to my dad's boss's Christmas party, and he had a home theater in his little rec room, and Home Alone 2 was playing. I didn't really think of it as a Christmas movie because it was at the booby trap scene in Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
So then I see a promo for it a couple days later. I was like, this was a Christmas movie? I just saw it as a movie where a little kid tried to kill two guys.
I mean, it's dark tendencies, but sure.
Well, it's like what they say about Die Hard, set around Christmas time, got to be a Christmas movie.
I will die on that hill. Die Hard is a Christmas film. Yeah.
You'd get along well with my dad.
Okay.
So, you were in that scene with Joe Pesci. Did you get to know Daniel Stern?
I didn't have any scenes with Daniel Stern, so I didn't really get a chance to meet him. Although I'm sure I crossed paths with him at the premiere or the wrap party or something, but he wasn't on set with us kids.
Okay. Yeah, because when I saw that movie for the first time ever, I didn't realize that Harry was also the cop.
He's in disguise.
Yeah, it took me a little while to realize that it was the same guy. It's like, are your parents home? Yeah, but they don't live here.
Pesci, he's so funny. Such a talented. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my dad introduced me to My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, so good.
Well, he says,
"Clock is ticking like this." I know that's Marissa Tomei's line, but that's the line I think of when you hear that.
What are you wearing? I'm wearing clothes. Well, my dad showed that to me, and he says it's Joe Pesci playing a lawyer. I was like, I'm sorry, a lawyer? I'm just picturing Joe Pesci as a mafia guy because I've seen a lot of other films that he's been in.
Yeah, that man's got range. He's very talented. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So, what was Macaulay Culkin like?
Oh, he was fun. He was at the time we did the first one, I think he was 9. So he was a 9-year-old kid.
Mhm.
The sets were crazy because there were so many children present and we were all we just had such a good time with each other. So it was like playtime. And then Chris Columbus, who is our director, was very patient and fun and kind, and he wanted it to be enjoyable for us. So, you know,
Yeah, I can see
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it was a blast. I mean, that's the way movies should be. They should be fun. It should be like playing in the sandbox. And Mac loved to play, and we had a really good time. And he had just a, I mean, he's not only precious but clearly very skilled. Um, he was great. He was great.
Mm.
And so was his little brother Kieran. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was in that movie too. I recently saw Kieran in what's it called? She's All That.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, with Freddie Prinze Jr. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good
She's
movie too.
it is.
Did you by any chance see? I know that Macaulay Culkin has occasionally reprised the role of Kevin in ads, like that Google commercial where
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just a
that's right.
recreation of that scene.
It was a couple of years ago, right? That he did that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
yeah. But did you see the video where he's playing an Uber's husband who doesn't know how to drive, and and the person he's driving is like, "I'm sorry, you don't know how to drive." No, I don't know how to drive. Well, I know where we're going, so I'll give you a drive. So they're driving, and it's not really said that he's playing Kevin, but it's basically implied because like he gets a phone call, and the ringtone is the theme music from Home Alone where they're racing through the airport.
I know I never saw that. I'm gonna have to look that up on YouTube
Yeah,
and
I'll
see.
send it to you. I will warn you, there's a lot of swearing in it, and
That's okay. I've heard it
and
all before, James. Yeah.
oh, okay, it's not for any Home Alone fans. It's not for kids.
There
So
you go.
yeah, so his phone rings and he turns it off, and it's like, is that your wife? No, that's my mom. Well, why are you forwarding calls from your mom? Okay, let me let you in on a little story. And he tells them that he was traumatized being left. He basically makes it sound like his mother doesn't love him.
Yeah. The
Mm.
dark side of it.
Yeah. Speaking of actually, another question about what people are like. What was Catherine O'Hara like?
Oh gosh, she's lovely.
A fellow
So
Canadian.
so funny. Yes, I have a vivid memory of her making dolphin sounds in between takes. She did a funny like dolphin sound. In the scene in the first movie where we're in the airport and she's making the phone call and we're all standing around as she's trying to get a hold of Kevin or the police. I remember in between takes she was entertaining us with dolphin sounds, but and then I have this photo of all of us from the second movie where everyone signed it and she wasn't in the photo, so she drew herself in. She's
Mm.
comedically brilliant,
Yeah.
obviously, and a really, really kind soul. Yeah.
Mm. I have a friend who was on Schitt's Creek and said that she's hilarious.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's undeniable.
Mhm.
Undeniable.
Yeah. I mean, for someone who is super funny, I think a lot of the funniest lines that she had in Home Alone were where she was like saying to the people at the airport, like, I'm trying to get home to my son, because she's like
Yeah.
exhausted, like she clearly has not slept.
Right. And I
Like,
love the interactions between her and John Candy when she's in the truck with the polka band. All of that was improvised. And you can see on her face that she's yeah, just it's so good. It's so good.
mm. So moving on from Home Alone a little bit, you were in another one of my very favorite shows. I watch a lot of retro TV shows. I actually was watching this one last night. You were in Sister Sister.
I was, yes.
Yeah, I love that show a lot, and you were in quite a few episodes of it.
Yeah. I did like 6 or 7, something
Okay,
like that. Yeah, I did half the season, I believe it was. Yeah.
okay.
I played their friend Dot.
What was that show like?
Oh, that was really fun. That was an interesting audition process because I had auditioned for a different character
Mhm.
and I didn't get that role. I don't remember who got the role, but it was like a month or two later that they brought me back and they offered me this role of Dot, which I think they created for me or something.
Mhm.
Oh geez, James, I don't remember the specifics of it, but
That's okay.
it yeah, but it was so fun to be on that set. And those two girls, those two women are just they're lovely and kind. And it was so fun. And I mean Jackie Harry, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They're just iconically funny. So to be around that all the time was pretty great.
Yeah. As much as it was Tia and Tamara's show,
Oh,
Jackie Harry
Jackie,
really
oh
stole
my
the show.
gosh. She's just, yeah, her timing is really impressive. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you also were, as I mentioned in the intro, you were on Beekman's World, which I actually watched a little bit of getting ready for this. I had never seen it before. I never even heard of it until I started researching for this.
Yeah.
So I
It's
watched.
like Mr. Wizard on acid. It's really like in your face.
It kind of reminds me of a little bit of Bill Nye the Science Guy, which I grew up with. So
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
think we were on at the same time. I mean, Beekman's World, I did it in 97, 98, I think it was, late 90s. And I think Bill Nye was on around the same time.
What was that like?
That was intense.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it went in the best possible way because I'm a firm believer as an actor that you can't act what you don't understand. And 99% of what I did on that show was teaching somebody about something scientific. So I wanted to be sure that I understood the science and the experiments and the whys behind what I was teaching. So it was a lot of work, but it was so fun. And the cast, Mark Ritz and Paul Zaloom. Paul played Beekman, Mark played the man in a rat suit. Yeah, they're just, well, Mark passed away a few years ago, but Paul is still with us, and they're just so talented and so funny. And yeah, the best 2 years I've spent on a show. It's definitely a highlight of my career for sure to be part of that group. And we had a reunion about 5 years ago here at my house and had a bunch of the crew members and cast members, and it was so fun to reunite with the family. And Jean Stapleton played Beekman's mom, and she's from All in the Family, so I got to work with her because
Wow.
yeah, that was crazy. It's funny how in my career I've managed to cross paths with all of these really incredible actors. I feel so lucky. But Beekman was definitely a highlight of my career.
Was Jean Stapleton a really funny person? Because like I've watched All in the Family. So
oh my gosh, yeah, just she was born with that timing. She's so funny. And she played as Beekman's mom, she played the sort of like crazy flighty character, and she just, I mean, she could do that with her eyes closed. She's just, yes, she's wonderful.
I noticed that the lab assistants on Beekman's World kind of changed every season.
Yeah, well, I think so. It was Alana, Eliza, and then me. I was the
Mhm.
last lab assistant, and I was the lab assistant for 2 seasons. And
Oh
I
wow.
don't know how many, I think, did Eliza do one and Alana did two? I don't know for sure how many
That's
they
okay.
did for me, but I was the final one. I did the last two before the
Mhm.
show.
So
Show was.
did you like have to audition, or
I
was it
did,
okay?
yeah. I went through a pretty significant audition process for that role because in addition to doing, so in the show itself, halfway through the episode, I would do this thing called Beekmania, where I would introduce Beekman with this crazy monologue. And that was part of the audition. And then a science experiment was another part of the audition. And then I had to sing and I had to dance because on that show, it was like you had to do everything. So it was definitely me being able to use everything that I'd ever learned in my career in one show.
Nice. Mixing it all together.
Mixed
Yeah.
all
Back
together.
when TLC was not a gossip channel. I like
Yeah,
I go ahead.
I was gonna say we were on CBS, but I guess maybe did we end on TLC? Were there reruns on TLC?
Well, as I was researching for this, it said that it was on TLC.
Oh, that might not be unless it was like reruns that were on TLC because
Maybe
initially we
so. Yeah,
CBS, yeah.
because I grew up with TLC like as an
Oh,
educational
maybe in a
channel.
different country, maybe in a different because in the US and
Okay.
in Canada, right?
Say again?
You're in Canada, correct?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Yeah, so maybe it was different in Canada than it was in the US. In the
Okay.
US, it was on CBS, but maybe up there it was
Okay.
TLC.
Yeah, there was a programming block that had like I used to watch it every morning that had kid shows. I don't remember if Beekman's World was one of them. I'm maybe I've seen it, but I just don't remember. But I remember Magic School Bus
Oh,
was
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
There was one show that and I know a couple of people who were on it. It was called Iris the Happy Professor. It was a Canadian show.
Yeah, that one I don't know.
Exactly. It was one that I loved when I was a kid, though. What and yeah, there were a lot of like cartoons. And, oh, High Five was another one, which was like the Wiggles kind of. I grew up with the
Wiggles,
Wiggles.
I mean, that was a little bit after my time, but I know the Wiggles. I don't know High Five.
No, I actually just saw the Wiggles a couple months ago. To all you listeners, please don't judge me for that. I know I'm nearly 24, but
Oh, you mean live? You saw them perform live?
yep, they came in
Oh, how
town.
fun. Oh, how
Yeah, I mean,
fun.
it was a part of my life, and like the day it was announced, like I was getting texts from my friends that were like, "The Wiggles are coming to Halifax," and I thought, "Don't you think I'm a little too old for that?" And my sister's like, "Go, you'll have fun. It's part of your
Yeah,
life." So I
I
went,
don't.
and as I was leaving, I accidentally ran into them.
Oh, that's fun. I don't think you're ever too old for stuff like that. I will fully embrace anything from my childhood.
Mm. Well,
Yes.
speaking of things that I grew up with and kids shows that I grew up with, you were on the big one for me, Bella and the Bulldogs.
Oh, okay. I
And
was.
here's the reason why I say that it's the big one. Like that is the show that inspired me to want to become a screenwriter, and now I work in the film industry.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah,
That's what was it about the show that inspired you? What did you like about it?
so well here's how it all happened. I my family was in Los Angeles for a D23, which is like Disney Comic-Con,
Mhm.
and every night I would watch Nickelodeon, and usually it was like Full House, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Coach, that old show with Craig T. Nelson, George Lopez, what else? Friends, maybe a bunch of other older shows. And one night it was a new episode night on Nickelodeon, and one of them was Belle and the Bulldogs, which I'd never seen before. And I was going into grade 11. One of my best friends had just graduated high school, and I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I'm getting close to that." So I've spent most of the end of my high school years pretty nervous about it. And so the
As
episode that
everyone does.
I yeah, and so the episode that I watched, it was where Bella was anxious that her team wouldn't make it to the playoffs, and her hand started to shake. And I
Uh-huh.
watched that brand new episode. I thought, that is me.
Mm,
That is exactly what I'm feeling right now. And actually, you were in that episode
I was,
in
yeah.
the B plot where Sophie's staying with Pepper.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes, I remember that
Yeah.
episode.
And then as time went on, I kept on watching it when I came back to Halifax and, well, suburban Halifax. But anyway, I kept on watching it. Finally, I watched one episode and I thought, this is funny. I want to write this. This is the thing that I want to write for.
Yeah.
Hmm
Yeah, it was a very funny show. The writers were so talented and just, yeah, the scripts,
I wanted to be one of them the moment I saw that show.
not a bad thing to want to be.
Yeah, like I told that story when I was in college, and my classmates and I we would be in our little lounge, and sometimes we'd have our laptops out and just start watching shows. I put on an episode of Belle and the Bulldogs. About how many people were in that class? I don't know, but about 10 of my classmates actually sat down and watched it with me. They're like, "Wait, this is the show that inspired you?" I was like, "Yeah, it's just like look at how
Yeah.
relatable it is to everything I've told you." So
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I liked about Belle and the Bulldogs and also a lot of other Nickelodeon and Disney Channel shows is that I felt I could relate to them.
Absolutely. And the jokes were tight and funny and it moved and it kept your attention and
Hmm
the characters were interesting and like you said, identifiable. Those are all good qualities in a show.
Absolutely. So how did you get involved in that show?
So originally I auditioned to play a drama teacher on that show. And I didn't get that role, but then they gave me Mrs. Silverstein. So it
Hmm
was another one of those situations where I auditioned for one thing and I get another.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the man that played my husband, Mr. Silverstein, Charlie, we were friends for years before we worked together. We were part of the Improv Olympic
Oh.
school in Hollywood. It's no longer there, but we took Improv Olympic together and we had known each other for years and years and years. So when I got on set and saw Sweet Charlie, it was just like, oh, this is going to be so fun and so easy because we already had a rapport, we already trusted each other, we knew each other, and it was an absolute blast. They
Mm.
could not have been nicer on that show, and the
Mm.
kids were so damn talented
Oh
and so
yeah.
professional and just really fun to be around. Haley, the little girl that plays Pepper,
Yep.
that played my daughter on the show, just so smart, so
Yeah.
smart, and
And
so
at the time of all of this, when I was watching all these new episodes, like I followed the cast on Twitter, and I
yeah.
would I would leave replies to their tweets, and they would actually like them. So that was even more helpful for what I was going through at the time, and
Sure.
more so like I more so felt like I could relate to them. I was like, they're actually reading this
Yeah,
thing. Like
right,
I remember being in my class saying somebody from Bell and the Bulldogs liked my tweet.
right. But you know, you took the time to tweet them. So if somebody takes the time to tweet you, if you can, if you see it, it's nice to at least acknowledge that you saw it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good,
hmm
really, really great group of kids.
Now, this drama teacher that you auditioned for, was that in the Tex Fest episode?
Think so. A very wonderful actor got the role. It was actually given to a man.
Yeah, I
He
think
had
I
red
yeah,
hair.
Patrick Bristow.
There it is.
He
Yes.
he also was a guest on this show.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he got the drama teacher role, and then they offered me the Mrs. Silverstein role. So
Hi, Patrick, if you're listening.
hello.
Mm. So, as time went on in Belle and the Bulldogs, like as we got to know more about the characters' families,
Mhm.
your character became pregnant. How was that established?
Um, uh, they basically said, and you're going to be pregnant. I went, okay. That's how things get established in television. They tell you
Okay.
this is what we're doing, and unless you have a moral objection, you go great. So
Hmm.
I went into the wardrobe department, and they fitted me with the baby belly, and then I worked at home on how people that are pregnant move and how it affects the way my body reacts to things. And yeah, that was really fun. That was
Mm.
really fun to do. And then
I
the
can
whole
imagine it would be hard to kind of put that all together when you're how do I put this without sounding like a doofus? Like with all the like is in that scene where she goes into labor and
yeah.
she's like and you're like in so much freaking pain, you know?
Right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a really fun scene to shoot. I mean, I don't have children, so I don't know what labor was like. So I asked friends that had kids, and yeah, I knew it was intense pain. But then the trick with that scene was being an intense pain, but also making it funny.
Okay.
Because it wasn't a drama. Like you have to be very aware of the genre that you're in, and that's a sitcom,
Hmm.
multi-cam comedy. So I had to be sure that even though I was in tremendous pain, that there was humor there, that it was
Mm.
grounded in reality, but it was somewhat funny. So
And during the baby shower too, like that where it's like, all right, come again. Ah, God.
yeah.
Yeah, let's play on a scavenger hunt. The winner gets this blender. Oh, I have a blender just like that. Not anymore.
Yeah.
I
So
have
she
seen
remembered.
every episode of Belle and the Bulldogs that there ever was. Like I still remember saying to my friends, this is what I want to write for. Cause like I had been creating stuff for a long, long time. And then finally I'm 16 years old and I finally realized, yeah, I want to write for shows like these. A lot of people are like, really? You don't want to write for like the Muppets, Sesame Street? I still do, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Belle and the Bulldogs, because I could relate to it, like the Muppets and Sesame Street's more like skit based, and I like to come up with skits. But
Okay.
finally, I was able to relate to something.
Sure. Yeah. And Belle and the Bulldogs has more of a through line. Like there's, a structure and an arc with the
Mm-hmm.
characters from episode
Mm-hmm.
to episode, which is different than sketch. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I was as you were saying that, I was just thinking about that episode where Pepper and Sawyer start dating, but Pepper's like, I don't know if my parents are going to allow me to date. So they have, and I have done something very similar to this. Like if it's a friend's birthday,
Yes.
instead of saying I want to get this for you, I'm like, so I have this friend who has a. I actually
Yes.
just actually just did this to one of my really good friends the other day. I was like, I have this friend who has a birthday coming up, and
Mhm.
I'm wondering, what is it that this is the kind of thing that they're really, really into, without giving it totally away. So I was
Right.
thinking in that scene where Sophie and Pepper go to Mr. and Mrs. Silverstein and explain, we have this friend on our
Yeah.
cheer squad who has a
Which we saw,
boyfriend.
obviously, because that was the part of the humor too, is that
Yeah,
the parents were completely in on it and playing
hmm
dumb. Like we're just gonna let them hang themselves with this rope right here.
exactly. Yeah, but I was thinking about that line where it's like, what do you think we should get? She should get him, and Mr. Silverstein says she shouldn't get him anything because she shouldn't have a boyfriend. I watched that and I'm thinking to myself, mind your own business. It's not your kid that they're well,
Oh,
it's their kid, but
it is. Yeah, it is.
and you had responded with yeah, because if she's your age, then she's way too young. Then
Right.
that always makes me think of one of my favorite retro catchphrases.
Mhm.
Parents just don't understand.
Oh, yes, the Will Smith song, right?
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
I'm
dun.
yeah, I'm a Fresh Prince of Bel Air watcher too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a funny
You
show.
watched the new one? Have you watched the new 1 hour show?
I haven't actually.
It's really good. It's
Okay.
really, yeah, you should watch it.
Okay.
It's not a comedy. It's a drama, but it's so well done.
Okay.
So I think it's on Peacock.
Yeah, we don't have Peacock here, but I think it's on Crave in Canada, which
Oh,
is
okay.
like Canada's version of Peacock and HBO Max. Because like
Oh, it's
When
like
H
merged together.
Yeah, like when HBO Max launched, I was like, okay, there's so much that I want to watch here, but it's not
Yeah.
available in Canada, and I don't think it ever will be. And then my dad got Crave.
And there it was. Yeah, we'll check it out on Crave. It's such a good song.
All
Such a good
right. All right. To all you listeners out there, remember that new Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on, if you're in Canada, Crave. If you're on if
if
you're
you're in the
in this,
US,
even if you're
Peacock.
in the US, Peacock. Yeah, exactly. Katie actually told me that she auditioned for Bella and the Bulldogs.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I should have asked her if she auditioned for Mrs. Silverstein.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We never talked about it.
Oh, well, that's a bombshell right there. So let's wrap it up by talking about one of the most iconic shows that you've been on, General Hospital.
Okay.
How did that come about? Because like that show changes its cast all the time.
All the time. Yes. So that show was unique because I was offered that show right before Christmas. I was offered the role of Winnie, and initially it was supposed to be one episode.
Oh
So
wow.
I did one episode. And then after, the way that soaps work is they're fast and they're furious. So you have 10, 20, 30, 40 pages of dialogue every day, and you shoot one or two takes. Like the only time you do a second take is if you screw up the first take so bad they can't use it. So it's like this, right? So I go in and I do my first day of shooting, and halfway through the first day, the executive producer came up and said, "How would you feel about doing a few more episodes?" And I said, "Sure. I mean, this is so fun. Are you kidding?" And everybody was really, really nice. Bradford, who played the one that I was opposite of, couldn't have been kinder. And so I thought it was going to be 4, maybe 5, and it ended up being over 40 episodes. I was there for a very, very long time playing this undercover FBI agent. And the really challenging part, not only being on the soap, like, oh, props to all of the actors that are on soap operas, because it is rough. It is the worst it ever was for me, or I should say the most challenging it ever was for me, is I had 42 pages of dialogue in one day that I got the night
Jeez.
before. So it's like it moves. But it's just it was like it was a blast to do. It was a great job to have. Everybody was really, really kind, and I loved being on it. And the dialogue that I had was always very heightened, which was really a challenge too, because it's not the way I normally speak. My character spoke in this heightened, almost Shakespearean method of speaking, and it was such a hard job that every job afterwards, it's like 8 pages of dialogue, please. I got that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like boot camps. It was
Mhm.
just the worst possible scenario in terms of like memorizing and speed and execution. It was all of it. Like one take, got the sides the night before. It was a ton of dialogue. So every job after that just feels really easy in comparison.
Yeah, I mean you'd be used to it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like if I can do 42 pages in one night, I can do anything.
Hmm. And you were also in a starring role, I think, in that show Faking It on MTV.
Yeah, so Faking It was created by one of my best friends in the whole world, Carter Covington. And it was created with him and 2 other women. He came on and was the showrunner. And when he wrote the script, he called and he said, "Would you play Penelope?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? Like, absolutely." So once I was approved by MTV, they brought me on, and it ended up being a recurring role. I did a ton of them, and that was, oh, James, that was one of the best jobs I've ever had. They're my family. I love those people, and I hope to see them all again very soon.
Mm. Well, maybe one day you'll have a little reunion at your house again.
Oh, you know what? It's funny you said that. It's in the works.
Oh wow. It's so weird because last week I did a That's So Raven retrospective. Looks
Oh,
like I'm the
yeah.
psychic now.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, I don't know. I get attached to people and I miss them. And when you're working on a show for a long period of time, it feels like you're a family. So when that family goes away, which is totally natural, you want to get them all back together.
I know what you mean. Like I wrapped a series like a month and a half ago, and like a lot of my friends that I worked with on that show, I'm still I mean, I know it's only been a month, but like my very, very best friend on that show, I still talk to her. I actually was just talking to her yesterday. So I know what you mean. You feel a big connection.
Right. And you've been through something. I mean, that show specifically, we were dealing with such important topics, and it just kept us really bound together. And yeah, it's a
Mm.
good
Mm. Well, that's all I've got. Is there anything that you'd like to say to finish?
No, just thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. And Katie Von Till, if you're listening, thank you for putting us in touch.
For the
And
connection.
And I will see you on the next nostalgia talk, which I don't know when that's going to come out, but it'll probably be when I get back from my trip. So in the meantime, peace.